it's Katie. Welcome back to For My Vanity and welcome to a little review video. I'm going to be trying a little something different on my channel and trying to give you shorter videos with just a couple reviews in it instead of just waiting to the end of the month and having a big old long video with a ton of reviews. So definitely let me know what you guys think about this. It's also a way for me to kind of try to stay up to date and more in the moment when it comes to newer products and getting reviews out to you and not, like I said, waiting a whole month or more depending on how long it takes me. So let me know what you think about this video. But today we are going to be diving in depth and I'm going to be sharing my reviews and experiences with the Milani, the Violet One Lash Primer, the Screen Queen Natural Finish Foundation, and then their brush set that they launched for the holidays. I'm also going to mention reviews for the Milani, Stay Put eyeliners and the Milani palette in Gilded Jade, but I do have reviews already up on my channel for both of these, so I'll leave those videos linked down below if you want to check them out. But this video is mainly going to be focused on the 3 products from Milani that they recently launched and my reviews for them. So if that sounds good, let's just get right into it. I do want to mention that I have a video up for this look if you're curious how I got it and what eyeshadows I used. I'll leave that video linked down below. But anyway, let's get into it and let's go ahead and start with the Milani, the Violet One Lash Primer. This lash primer I first used in a trying all new Milani products, Get Ready With Me, that I posted in December, I think it was. I'll have that video linked down below. But it's a nice primer. It's very nice. I cannot deny that. When you put it on, it really gives your lashes a lot of bulk, a lot of volume, and really thickens them up. I find that you do have to be a little careful not to thicken them up too much because if you can see this, it has mainly lashes on one side and then the rest of it is pretty short and flat when it comes to bristles. So it really helps you apply and really put a lot of product on and then you kind of turn it and coat that product through to really disperse it and get it evenly distributed through your lashes and make sure you like how your lashes are looking. But what I find with this that I feel like it's just not worth it is today, for example, in this eye look, I did this primer on one eye, did one coat, and I let it dry. It doesn't specify, at least on the packaging, it didn't specify if you had to apply a mascara over it wet or dry. I let it dry because I don't like this formula to goop up into my other mascaras and ruin them, so I let it dry nearly completely before going on with the mascara, and I put one coat of this L'Oreal Unlimited mascara that I really do like. So I did both of these on this eye, and then on this eye I did this just 2 or 3 times. I've really looked up close, and yes, there are little differences, but really they both look the same. And if anything, I kind of like how the L'Oreal separated my lashes, gave them length and gave them curl and more definition all around. I just like what L'Oreal did by itself as opposed to the Milani. I feel like the Milani has a couple clumps in it. The Milani has a couple lashes that I felt like could be fanned out and they're just kind of clumping together a little bit more. So yeah, I just felt like that was, for me, a true test if a lash primer works, is to try it on one eye and then do what I would normally do, which is to use one mascara, just 2-3 coats, or to just use 2 mascaras that I currently have open together, one that's more separating, one that's more volumizing, and see if it really makes a difference. And for me, the Milani one really didn't. I mean, it will make more of a difference than if you just do one coat of, you know, a very simple basic mascara. This will definitely give you a lot more oomph to your lashes, but if you have a good mascara and if you just put 2-3 coats and really pay attention and, you know, do a good job applying it, I feel like it does just as good or better than this lash primer. But also something to keep in mind that while they say it's violet, it's basically like a milky type of purple. So when you apply it, you have to make sure when you're applying the mascara on top that you really coat your lashes very well. And I kind of had to look at it from different angles to make sure there was no white showing through, which I find very annoying and something I never have to worry about when I just use a mascara. Okay, like I said, I'm going to just very briefly mention the Milani Stay Put eyeliner. I do have a full review of this in my monthly countdown video, which I will have linked up here, wherever it is, so you could go there for more information. But the short and quick of it, if you just want to hear my thoughts, is I think this is a gorgeous, very, very smooth liner. I absolutely love how it applies to my waterline. It goes on extremely smooth, extremely pigmented. There's no tugging on my waterline. What I don't like, and what for me personally, I would never repurchase these, is that I've been using the black one. They don't stay in my waterline. I have very watery eyes, so my eyes are constantly wet, and one thing that always kind of docks it for me is if by halfway through the day I look in the mirror and there's no more gel liner. And these are basically gone by that halfway mark. So that's why for me, while I think they're gorgeous and I just love how easy they are to apply, they don't stand the test of time for me. So I won't ever repurchase it. If you have very dry eyes, I would say look into these though, because like I said, they perform so beautifully. I really do like them. They're very nice, but they just don't stay for me. So okay, let's talk about their brush set. There were 10 that came in this, and I want to say it was $79. I just looked this morning and I can't remember again. Okay, yes, it was $70, not $79, $69.99 on their website, and they came with 10 brushes. I know a lot of people are like, oh my gosh, that's expensive, and I do agree it's expensive. I will say though that these are very nicely made. The beautiful handles, there's no bumpiness to them, that it's all like sealed. And if you break it down for $70 divided by 10 brushes, if you love and can see yourself using all of them, that's just $7 a brush, which is kind of equivalent to a lot of brushes you can get at the drugstore. But like Real Techniques, I'm thinking of Eco Tools and stuff like that, they're relatively around the same price, and I would argue that these are nicer than Eco Tools and maybe a touch nicer and like softer and just smoother and more luxe feeling than Real Techniques. So Real Techniques is a very solid brand. But anyway, let's dive into talking about each of the brushes. The 3 that are duds for me personally and that I have already, as you can see from this brush, given to my daughter to play with are these 3. This one mainly because I have like 15 flat foundation brushes, so I just didn't find myself needing another one. And then these 2 brushes, which I think this was like a blush brush and this was a powder brush, they're just the powder brush is too big and not tapered enough, so when I was applying my powder with it, I'm not someone to sweep, I like to tap it in. I just felt like I was slapping myself. I felt like they were trying to do what this It brushes for Ulta Velvet Luxe Plush Powder Brush 313. It's kind of the same idea of this, but this one is just so much softer. There's fewer bristles in here and there's a much better taper to the side. So when I'm applying powder with this, it's just, I can kind of go at where the taper happens here and just press it into my skin, and I feel like it's just so nice. But this, because the taper kind of stops right here, and it's so densely packed, you're just kind of like slapping yourself. There's no real pressing. It's just a lot harder, harsher, not as soft. I don't know. I just didn't care for this brush. And then with this, for the blush brush, it was just too pointed and there wasn't enough taper and it was too densely packed for me when I was applying my blush with it. I like something a lot fluffier, honestly, like this brush from It Cosmetics Heavenly Luxe French Boutique brush. It's just nice and soft and big and fluffy and just makes applying it very quick and easy, whereas this was very, you know, smaller and a lot more denser and not as much of a taper to it, so it was more like poking the blush onto my cheeks, and I just don't personally like that. I probably shouldn't be touching this to my face. Who knows what my daughter has put in this. But anyway, so for me personally, these 3 brushes were a dud for me in this collection. The rest of the brushes, however, I thought were really nice. So if you take that into consideration, taking out 3 brushes and kind of dividing up $70, that's more like $10 a brush, which is getting more expensive. So I think it really just depends on what brushes you find value in, whether this is worth it for you, and if you can get it on a sale. I haven't seen them go on sale yet. But anyway, this brush right here is probably one of my favorites from this collection. Well, this and the highlighter. But I love this because of the unique shape to it. I find that I can, if I'm in a hurry or if I'm just wanting to cut corners and just get the job done quicker, I love how you can dip this part, the front part of the brush, into like your contour and really get a chiseled contour. And then you can go either into the same product or into your bronzer and do it up here, and then just use the tip of this to very easily buff it out. It's just very soft up here, but it's a lot more dense and pointed here. So I found it was like a 2-for-1. I can really chisel out right here, and then I can kind of take the tip of it and very lightly buff and whatnot into, you know, my bronzer, into my skin. So I just think this is a very unique brush, and it actually works. It's not just one of those unique and gimmicky brushes, in my opinion, and I find that I've been reaching for it a lot. It still doesn't take the place of my stipple brushes when it comes to bronze and contour. I really like how they apply, but this is right below it. And if you're wanting to try something different when it comes to brushes, if you're like me and you like something unique and you like trying new brushes, something like this, which Real Techniques has, I think maybe even sold individually, but they have a set of 3, so you don't have to get this set to try this brush. But I would say give this a try, because if the Real Techniques ones are anything like this, I just love how you can do it all with this one brush. Highlighter brush is also super nice. It's got a very nice pinch to it. Reminds me a lot of the Sigma F03 brush. It's just a tad bit bigger, as you can see, but it's still got a nice pinch to it. It still has a nice taper to it, and just like the Sigma brush, it picks up your highlighter very nice and allows you to really buff it into your skin. I used all these brushes on my face today, if you were wondering, but anyway, I just like how it applies, and yeah, this was definitely one of my favorite. I think this one one comes out as my favorite, and then this one's right below it. Moving on to the other brushes, this I found really nice. You can use it for under eye concealer, but I like doing it to apply the concealer to my eyelid, and especially if you're doing your face first and then doing concealer on your eyelid afterwards, it's very nice because it's a lot more precise than what I typically use, which is like a big round kabuki brush. So this works really nicely, and I do like it for that. This is just kind of a standard when it comes to fluffy brushes, just to give you a size comparison, because I know if you're like me, you're like, how big is that? This is an E40 brush, which is very like OG when it comes to Sigma brushes. So as you can see, they're pretty much the same. This one is just a lot thicker. There's more bristle to it, whereas this is a lot skinnier. I don't know if you'll be able to see, but it's definitely not like double the size, but it's a good bit, it's got a good bit more bulk around it, more bristles in it than the Sigma one does. But still, it blends out nicely. But I will say, if you're someone with very tiny eyes, I don't think this will work for you. I don't consider myself someone with very tiny eyes, and this works fairly well, but it's just a little big if I'm wanting to do detail work. If you're someone who just likes to take like your bronzer and run it through your crease and just gonna go with that for your everyday, this is a brush that'll be fine. But if you're wanting to do detail blending, probably won't like this. And then next up, this is like their flat brush. I use this to apply matte shadows to my lid. I don't really like it for applying shimmer, just because I feel like it doesn't pick it up as well as like a flat brush does, but it's got a nice taper to it, and it goes and picks up the shadow really well. And then you can either kind of buff, as you can see, I still have the red neon. You can kind of buff with it and blend the edges and whatnot, or you can really pack it on, and it does a really good job. If you're someone with really small eyes, I don't think you'll like this, because like I said, I don't consider myself someone with tiny eyes, and it's a little large for me unless I'm wanting to go just kind of slapping some matte shadow all over my crease and wanting to blend really quickly. Then it comes in handy. So it just depends on what you like to do with your eyes. The last two brushes are the least exciting, but I still find a purpose for them. This brush right here is great for smudging. I used it to smudge out my lower lash line, and it works great. It's very soft. I do like that with all of these bristles. The bristles are extremely soft, and they feel really nice, and they don't feel scratchy at all on your eyes. And then last up is this little standard double-sided brow brush is what it is. I've actually used this a couple times for different things. Today I used it to help get the really crisp, sharp line to my cut crease. And then this, I've actually been keeping it clean, and I use it to get off any mascara that I accidentally touch my skin with. It just flakes it off nicely. I'm not going to review this because I don't use it for brows, so I can't tell you that, but I will keep it because it's a brush that I can clearly see in my little brush organizers, and it's become the staple one that's like, oh man, I got mascara on me. This is what I'm going to use. So I always know it's clean. So in that respect, this is worth it, and I'll definitely be keeping it. So anyway, those are my reviews for all the brushes in this collection. And like I said, these are all ones that are going to be staying in my collection, and I can see myself using and getting use out of it. So I hope that review was helpful for you, and it really just comes down to how much you like to spend on your brushes and what type of brushes you can see yourself getting good use out of. I also reviewed the Gilded Jade palette. This is their green themed palette. You guys knew I was going to pick this one. That review I will leave linked up here. I reviewed it in a countdown fashion with 9 other palettes that I tried from the past month and a half or 2 months, whatever it was. So check that out if you want a full review. But my thoughts for this is that I think this is a very nice palette. It's nothing crazy, but it's a very good formula. It's a very good green palette for the drugstore. And if you like Milani's formula, if you want to dip your toes into green, I think this is a good one to go for. And if you don't want to go online and order to try a green palette, if you're someone who just likes to go to the store and get something there instead of having to order online through Indie or whatever the case may be, I think you should check your store, and if you have this, this would be a good one to go to get green eyeshadows and see if you even like the color. I just thought it was a lot of fun. So not blown away. This isn't anything extraordinary when it comes to quality wise or the looks that you can get, but I was very pleased with it. Okay, I saved the most controversial for last, and controversial just in my own head, I feel like. This is the Screen Queen Natural Finish Foundation. This little guy here, I feel like I haven't ever tried and tested a foundation for as long as I've tested this one. I feel like I've been using this for a week and a half straight. And I say that meaning that like I test it in a week and a half straight. Every time I put my makeup on, I'm like up in my mirror at the end of the day, really paying attention. I'm paying attention to what primers I'm using, that kind of thing. I feel like usually with foundations, after like 3-4 times, I got a grasp on it and I know what I'm going to say in my review. But this one, I just put on this face today. I'm using this today, and I finally was like, okay, I feel like I can give my thoughts and I know what I want to say. So that's why I'm doing my review today. But this is a difficult foundation. And I would say if you are someone with very dry skin, or if you're someone with a lot of peach fuzz, you might not like this foundation. let me explain. So when I first started trying this, one, I have relatively dry skin. It's not crazy dry, but it is a little dry, especially like my nose, with it being the winter. But I tried to wear it the first couple times and it looked awful. I have a first impressions wear test of this. I will go ahead and link it up here. If you go in there, I get really up close in the camera and you can see what my foundation looked like at the end of the night, and it was very splotchy all around my nose, around my mouth, around my chin, and it was splotchy to the point of if you were just standing talking with me face to face, you could notice how splotchy and weird my foundation looked. And that's like, no thank you. That's not what I want when it comes to a foundation. I want one that lasts and looks nice, even if it's wearing away. If it wears away gracefully, I'm happy, but this just was very splotchy and spotty and very weird. And then around my nose, it just wasn't pretty. On top of that, I felt like it was blending out very oddly. Like it was very, once again, kind of spotty, and I kept kind of going over trying to build it up and smooth it out and make it look very smooth. And it was very difficult too. So I tried this foundation probably 3-4 times, and then I was like, I wonder if I removed all of my facial hair, because I have a lot of peach fuzz on my face, and I tend to wax my face every couple of months, and it's been a long time. I want to say, I can't even remember the last time. Months since I waxed my face last. So I had a lot of peach fuzz on my face, and I was like, I wonder if that's making this foundation go on so oddly. So I was like, let me wax my face. I've been meaning to get rid of my mustache, get rid of all my peach fuzz, because I do like how foundation applies on my face without any of the peach fuzz. So I finally waxed my face, I want to say like 5 days ago. I think it was 4 or 5 days ago. And I put it on the next day, and it went on so much easier. It still looks splotchy at the end of the day, still wore really bad around here, but it was a lot better blending it in. Something I find with this foundation is that when you're blending it in, you have to kind of blend it in and then leave it alone. Even if you feel like it looks spotty, just leave it alone. By the time you put everything else on your face, it looks better. So keep that in mind if you're trying this foundation out. If it's still looking bad when you're applying it, just blend it in very lightly. I have to use a brush, by the way. I tried a sponge, no way. And I tried my hand, no way. So I would always use a brush. And the one that I tended to use, where did it go? Oh, this one right here. It's the It Cosmetics Airbrush Full Coverage Complexion Brush number 77. It's just got a nice flat, it's kind of like a kabuki, whatever. This is the one I've been using. And I would just kind of stamp it in and blend it very gently around the edges, and I would just leave it and let it set. And even if I got really up close in my mirror after putting it on, I could see those little, almost like spotting, like it wasn't really melting into my skin. I just left them. And by the time I left my makeup table, I noticed that it all looked a lot nicer. Now, moving on to the base, when it comes to this, you need to have the right base. If you have dry skin, I think you will hate this, because something I found out is I started putting the, what is it called, that Miracle Cream from Juno & Co. They just sent it to me, and I was like, I wonder if that, because it's supposed to be a miracle cream and a heavy duty moisturizing cream. I was like, I wonder if I put that on, if my foundation will wear better, because maybe it's just looking so bad because I'm so dry. So I put it all over my face, and it did wear better. But that cream, I think, was just too heavy, and it made my foundation go on heavier and feel heavier. So the next day, I just put the Juno & Co. Miracle Cream around my nose and around my mouth, and I used other primers on the rest of my face. And that was the first day that I was like, okay, this doesn't look so bad. So I've been testing with other primers, and I feel like this is a foundation that you really have to make sure you're priming right. At the end of this video, I'm going to get up close and show you guys what my foundation looks like. And as you can see, it's not perfect. I've only been wearing this foundation for maybe 4 hours. It's not perfect. It's definitely starting to bunch around my nose. It's starting to get a little spotty around my mouth, but I find that if I prime correctly with a very moisturizing primer, only around the areas where I need it, and then just something very light everywhere else, this wears fairly nicely. Now, it still doesn't give you great coverage, and I feel like the biggest downside for me for this foundation is that it doesn't give you a lot of coverage. It's so difficult to put on. You have to be very careful of what you put on as your base, but at the same time, it's not giving you a lot of coverage, and it feels like a foundation. Like, I'm thinking of the L'Oreal Fresh Wear foundation. That foundation feels just as light on my skin as this Screen Queen does. Like, if I put them on my face, they would feel the same, identical. They still have that, like, I'm wearing makeup feel to them. Nothing heavy, but they still have that feel to it. But if I'm wanting to go for that light of a feeling foundation, I'm going to grab the L'Oreal one, because that one's just so much more effortless and it gives a little more coverage. Whereas this one, I feel like it feels like foundation. It's very tricky and kind of, you know, almost like a mind warp, I feel like. I don't even know how to describe it. Like, when you're putting it on, you just feel like it looks terrible. You just have to finish your makeup, and then when you leave, it looks okay. So for all the trouble that I have to go through to put this on, I just don't see myself using it because I would rather just use my L'Oreal one. I hope that is all making sense. I have so many thoughts when it comes to this foundation. Like I said, I've tried it so many different ways. I've tried it with a very tacky primer. I've tried it with a very pore filling primer. I've tried it with a very moisturizing primer. I've tried it with just applying my hands. I've tried it with no primer at all underneath it. And the best way I've found to wear it is to make sure you prime very well in the areas you need it and leave the rest pretty lightly primed. But anyway, all around, it's a nice foundation. I found a way to make it work, but I'm not going to be keeping it, and I can't say I recommend it, because if you're wanting something that feels like this lightweight on your skin, I would recommend you get the Fresh Wear from L'Oreal, because it'll give you a little more coverage and it's so much easier to apply. And I never had to be careful of like, okay, where are the areas I'm dry, where are the areas that, you know, what primer am I using underneath it. I felt like with the L'Oreal one, just about any primer, any lightweight primer, worked beautifully with that. I never really tried anything else because at the time I was very dry, so I went with just the primerizer and it always wore beautifully. So yeah, because I have experience with that, I just can't see myself recommending this. I do like the concept of a natural finish foundation, but something also I almost forgot to mention is you have to set this because it will not set by itself. There was one day I was like, I want to try and see and wear this without setting it to see if it wears better, because maybe it's the powder I'm putting on top that's messing with it and causing this blotching and causing it to not perform as well as it could. So that day I did this and I waited, no joke, probably 20 to 30 minutes because I put my foundation on and then I went and fed Levi and came back to finish up my makeup, and it was still tacky and sticky. And I was like, well, you know what, I'm just going to try and put bronzer on. I tried to put bronzer on, and as I was like buffing and blending the bronzer into my hairline, my hair would come back and touch my face and it would stick. Like, it was so sticky. So after trying that for a minute or two, I was like, okay, this is not going to work. I'm going to have so much hair and little fuzzies and little everything stuck to my face. And also, because I didn't set it and because it was so sticky, it was already starting to crease in my smile line right here and in my forehead really badly. And like I said, this is 30 minutes after I put it on. So when I was like, okay, this is just not going to work, I very lightly set it, and I feel like that is the trick. There is just this fine balance between, you have to set it, but if you set it too much, then you're going to get a lot of cakiness and it's just going to look very heavy on your face. And when it's natural finish, you don't want a matte, heavy look to your face. At least me personally, I was trying to get that natural finish. So yeah, I think those are all of my scattered thoughts. Please check out that first impressions video because you'll be able to see the spotting that happened. Maybe it's if you have a perfect normal, just like right there in the middle normal skin, you'll like it. But if you're just a little bit dry, I had so much trouble getting that to work on my skin and look good. But I don't know. I'm wanting to explore more very light coverage foundations, more of a natural finish, not so matte, especially in the winter with my skin being so dry. So that's what really intrigued me about this foundation and what I was really hoping would hit it out of the park. But like I said, I'm returning this because it's too light, but I have no desire to really put this on my face anymore. After the week and a half that I've been testing it, I'm done. Alright, so there you have it. Those are my reviews for all of these Milani products. I feel like I said I was going to try to do these to make the videos very short and sweet, and here we are. I have 30 minutes of footage, so hopefully I'll be able to condense that because I just talk a lot. But anyway, I hope you found these reviews helpful. Thank you so very much for watching. Let me know what you guys think of these videos. But yeah, with all that said, thank you guys so very much for watching, and I will see you very soon in my next video. Bye, guys.